Hey guys, Veebat here with another V-Plays, taking a look at the RB-17 by request. This aircraft is the first Tier 8 bomber in the game and the only Tier 8 premium bomber in the game. The RB-17 sports 3 volleys of 6 bombs and has a 23mm tailgunner with a very impressive range of over 3,200 feet, which is over 1,000 meters. The aircraft is a jet at Tier 8, which means that it's pretty quick and allows it to be able to traverse the battlefield fairly quickly. We're actually going up against another RB-17. It's the only player on the enemy team, but he is a specialist, so I feel as though this is an accurate comparison of capabilities here. So we both kind of gave each other the salute and wished each other luck. We're going to come in here, and one of the limitations I found with the 3-bomb drop arrangement, is that you can't just flip a zone in a single pass. It's actually going to take several passes because there just isn't enough coming out. So I'm dropping 2 bomb drops here in the center and 1 bomb drop on that other section over there. I am flying a little bit higher, but we were unable to take out one of the structures down there. But actually I was unable to take out both sites, so we missed a couple of structures in either of those, which stinks a little bit because that's going to put us behind. But good news is all of my ground attackers went towards this site, and I believe I pinged this site when we started the battle anyways, just to ensure that I was going to get some help. The reload is pretty quick with the setup I have right now. I think it's like 35 seconds or something like that. I do see that the enemy B-32 is inbound, so I'm like, alright, we definitely need to make sure that these bombs get out. Still didn't take that center site. I wish I would have noticed that. I could have just dropped 1 set of bombs there and it would have been over for sure, even if the B-32 started getting any portion of the zone. But I have faith that mine were going to hit the ground quickly enough, so let's go ahead and start heading towards the other side of the map. You'll kind of note that when we were flying over this zone, we really didn't get crushed by the flak, and you'd kind of expect that, especially since I'm only running the universal camouflage on this aircraft. Even though it really doesn't look like it, right? Thanks for the universal camouflage, that's all green, guys. The aircraft's already green. Doesn't feel like camo at all, does it? Anyways, I digress. Just a little bit upset about my purchase of not getting something at least decent for pain. So we're going to come in here and we're going to try and help on our way through. We're dropping some bombs on each one of these sectors. It's a little bit hard to make the sweeping bomb run here, but I slow down the aircraft, engage the flaps, and I'm able to get these bombs out on that section over there. And then I just try to avoid the incoming flak. Modulating your speed, by the way, when you're in the bomb reticle, because you can't change really your up and down and you don't want to change your left or right too much, you're going to find that you can actually avoid the flak for a little bit of time by kind of tricking the flak guns by adjusting your speed. It's not perfect because at some point when you speed back up, you'll be flying back through the flak that had already been up in the air. So you're still going to end up taking some flak damage, but it'll minimize it for a short period of time, if that makes any sense. Essentially envision that they're firing where you're going to be, and then you slow down, the flak dissipates, and tries to track on where you are now and starts coming towards you, so you get a little bit of time, and then I adjust my angle after I've made the drops. We're coming down here at lower altitude because I want to ensure that these bombs are hitting at this lower block here. We fired just a little bit wide on that pass. I just couldn't line it up properly, but I was really concerned about getting the center point. The good news with going after a zone that's already captured by the enemy is that you don't have to worry about the enemy getting it back, with the exception of maybe killing your airframe. I wasn't sure how much health was on this little bit right here, so I figured I'd throw the forward guns on it. I'm like, hey, I wonder if I can get the tail gunner on it. And then I remember that you can't fire the tail gunner really unless you got a target behind you, so clickety click, no results. Also, getting low like this reduces or pretty much eliminates the AA fire that's coming up against you. I really need to get this plant though, because they're 34 seconds from getting a big boost of points, and on top of that we have also lost all of the mining plants. So we were able to flip the zone really quickly here, but I got a lot of aircraft on my tail, and you can see we're trying to get out some good damage here on these aircraft before I die. And we're gone. This is the disadvantage of flying at the lower altitudes, is you can be engaged pretty much by anything. Even though those were altitude fighters, anybody could have come after me, and we definitely suffered for it. Good news is we can actually come in and go after the mining plant. Now, why did I choose the further away zone when I could have spawned down at the airfield over here at the south and gotten there much quicker? I had just offloaded all of my ordnance. We're in the middle of a reload. We got 26 seconds left. The timer, I thought the timer used to continue to tick down while you were in respawn, but I think they did away with that, if I'm not mistaken. It feels like they did away with it. The other thing is that airfield actually had 2 aircraft that were attacking it and no allies. So as a bomber, especially one that doesn't have Su-10 type tailgunners on it, you are going to need to kind of try and be cautious to not go straight into a heavy fight like that. You don't want to be a liability to your team, and you don't want to sacrifice any of the health you're going to need in order to survive a lot of the AA fire. We're a little bit lower on this run than we were on the first run that we did against this zone back at the beginning of the game, and here we're going to do the flak dodging mini game here as we modulate altitude, speed, and direction. We did not completely destroy one of the smaller sites. I do see a heavy is inbound. That stinks. Looks like he's heading straight at me too, so I go ahead and ping for some help. There is also another heavy here. Tailgunner's already firing, so I'm going to go ahead and get on here and try and give him a hand. The 109Z is chasing me, but you can see we're keeping him pretty much at arm's length, and the 108 cannons that he has just don't have the capability to stick with us. We're getting some shots out on the Hornet here. Maybe we can deter him as he's coming in on us, and it was effective. We scared him off. Now with the Su-10, if comparable to Tier, right, the Su-10 would have been able to essentially decimate that aircraft that was trailing on us. However, this aircraft just did enough damage to, maybe take out one aircraft, deter another with some fancy flying. That is much more reminiscent, now that I'm flying this, of the Ju-287 and the EF-131, the way that those tailgunners work. They're enough to be able to deter the enemy and possibly kill an aircraft here and there, but for the most part they're there more or less to scare off an enemy from chasing you or possibly cause some critical damage, so just something to think about. I'm coming back through this zone because I really think it's important that we get it, and I also am worried about the mining plant. The mining plant is something we just need to hold that one. If we can hold that one, I'm going to be much happier. Kind of a sloppy drop here, but I just want to destroy the guns. I'm not as concerned about getting a capture because I already know that a lot of these aircraft are pretty heavily damaged, and if we can pick off a few of these, we should be good. And I make the rash assumption again that there's a really low health defense aircraft over there, so they should be able to kill it, right? No such luck. In fact, in hindsight, I see when I pinged that bomber, there was a J7W1 that was tracking on that low health aircraft, and it actually had diverted off of it for a second, so I probably hurt our chances of being able to capture that zone initially. This zone is just coming back. I always like dropping bombs like a second before the site comes back up. That was kind of a wide drop. That's okay. I'm on my way through to the next zone. But if you can drop the bombs while it's in the middle of a respawn, that means that the flak guns aren't up and firing at you yet, so you have a bit of an opportunity, and that's kind of what I was going for. Unfortunately, we got taken out by this J4M, which I believe is one of the defense fighters. So we've died twice so far in this match, and that was at squall line, but you can see that with the points ticking away, we're doing pretty good, and you can see the RB-17s up here at about 10,000 feet. I wouldn't necessarily call that ultra high altitude, but it's higher altitude. It's about 2,000 feet above kind of the recommended altitude block. But, good game to him as well. He also got a winged legend. Let's go ahead and get back to the hangar and talk a little bit more about this airframe, how I've got it set up, and what my opinion of it is. Alright, so not a bad battle for bringing this aircraft out of the hangar essentially cold, much like we did with the Seahawk yesterday. This aircraft is completely uh, covered in dust. I haven't flown this aircraft in a really long time, mostly because I have so many other bombers, so many other lines that I'm grinding, and so many new Tier 8 premium aircraft that are paying off pretty well that I haven't really had to use the RB-17 too much. The RB-17 was my first Tier 8 premium aircraft just due to the consistently good performance it had. I did fly this at low altitude before they changed the mechanics of bombers. Now you can still fly at low altitude, but you're going to sacrifice some of your engine power as a result of getting outside of your optimum altitude. Now, this is going to be a good example showing the difference between two RB-17s going head to head. And it was a fairly close match. As you can see here, there was some points during that battle where we only had one zone while they had the other four. The other RB-17 was also flying at much higher altitude. I am going to give him the benefit of the doubt, knowing that he's specialist, that he may have equipped on here the increased accuracy on the bomb sight and had that up to ultimate so he could actually hit those targets at such a high altitude. The only disadvantage, well, there's multiple disadvantages, but the major disadvantage to flying a bomber at ultra high altitudes is that your bombs are going to become more inaccurate during the drop. And when you're dropping in clusters like the RB-17 does, sometimes the loss of speed because you're flying at higher altitude and you lose engine performance, sometimes that loss of speed translates to better clustering of the bombs. But I could also get that if I slowed down at my mid to high altitude as well. But at that ultra high altitude, you're kind of stuck with going a little bit slower. And that also affects your spread for when you want it to be long, like when you're going up against that big center zone of the mining plant, because that big center zone of the mining plant is kind of spread out. So having some form of speed is actually going to be beneficial in those instances. In fact, the benefit to carpet bombing at higher speeds is one of the reasons that my B-32, I fit it to go as fast as I possibly can when I go into a zone so I can stretch out that carpet bomb as far as I can because I seldom have an issue with the bombs actually being effective. So that's something to consider for anybody who thinks, well, if I'm at really high altitude, it's harder for them to kill me. Yeah, it's harder for them to kill you, but you're also less effective as a bomber. I'd rather have you be in a situation where you could be in a little bit of danger against heavies and some of the light fighters, but still being effective rather than flying up its space. But yeah, it was definitely a tough fight, and I found myself having to work for this victory, so, you know, hats off to you. That was a good battle if you ever watched this video. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.